Hello students and welcome to the lecture on the mutation operator. The 19th lecture in the lecture series for the course of Introduction to Soft Computing for Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering students of the 7th semester of Goa College of Engineering. I am Miss Purti Savardekar, the faculty in charge for this course. In the last lecture, we discussed and understood the binary variation operator called the crossover operator. In today's lecture, we will focus our attention to the unary variation operator, the mutation operator. Let us begin. The crossover operator is a binary variation operator because it requires two parents to generate an offspring. Two parents. Whereas mutation operator is a unary operator because it needs only one parent to generate an offspring. The mutation operator is basically responsible for generating a new individual by introducing a random change in an entry in the genotype of the parent. The type of mutation or the random change depends on the genotype representation of the individual. In case of binary representation, an entry in the genotype is generally flipped. A bit is flipped with a certain probability. And in case of real valued representation, a small change is introduced in the entry based on some predefined probability distribution. So, what is the need for mutation in genetic algorithm? Genetic algorithm where we are actually trying to go from an initial solution to the final solution on the fitness landscape. In biology, a mutation is an alteration in the genome of the organism resulting from errors during DNA replication. Mutations can have a range of effects. They can often be harmful. Others can have little or almost no detrimental effect. And sometimes, although very rarely, the change in the DNA sequence may even turn out to be beneficial to the organism. It may or may not produce observable changes in the phenotype of the organism, but it plays an extremely important role in the process of evolution. Mutations are essential to evolution. Every genetic feature in every organism was initially the result of mutation. The new genetic variant which is a result of mutation then spreads via reproduction, and this differential reproduction is a defining aspect of evolution. It is easy to understand how a mutation that allows an organism to feed, grow or reproduce more effectively could cause the mutant to become more abundant over time. For example, genes control the structure and effectiveness of digestive enzymes in your and all other vertebrate salivary glands. At first glance, mutations to salivary enzymes might appear to have very little potential for impacting survival or evolution. Yet, it is precisely the accumulation of slight mutations to the saliva that is responsible for snake venom and therefore much of snake evolution. Mutations provide genetic variation. They provide diversity. In genetic algorithms also, mutations perform the same function. They add a new characteristic into the population. If these characteristics are good, they will survive and continue into the next generation. If not, they will get eliminated subsequently. So, in genetic algorithm, mutation provides a source of diversity by generating a random new solution in the search space. What is an important consideration over here is the randomness. The change in the genotype is introduced with a certain probability. Therefore, before going ahead, let us recapitulate quickly on the concept of probability distribution. In this video, we will consider two kinds of mutations, uniform mutation and Gaussian mutation. In the uniform mutation, the randomness is based on uniform distribution, whereas in Gaussian mutation, the randomness is based on the Gaussian distribution. In statistics, uniform distribution is a probability distribution where all outcomes are equally likely. Discrete uniform distributions have a finite number of outcomes, whereas continuous uniform distribution is a statistical distribution with an infinite number of equally likely measurable values. For example, the probability of landing on each side of a die in case of rolling of a die, or the probability of hitting heads or tails in case of a coin toss. These have equally likely outcomes. The graph of uniform distribution, that's why, is usually flat, where the sides and the top are parallel to the x and y axis, like this. A Gaussian distribution has a shape that is symmetrical from the peak of the curve where the mean is. This means that most of the observed data is clustered near the mean, while the data becomes less frequent when we go further away from the mean. The resultant graph appears as a bell-shaped, like this. So, in uniform mutation, the randomness is based on uniform distribution. Whereas, in Gaussian mutation, the randomness is based on Gaussian distribution. Just like how the choice of crossover technique is based on genotype representation, the choice of mutation operator is also based on the genotype representation. Mutation in binary representation is like this. Till now we have studied that mutation alters the entries in the genotype with some probability. This probability is known as the mutation probability. Let us denote this probability as PM. It is user defined. So, first the mutation probability PM is fixed by the user. Next, a random number is generated from the probability distribution that is considered, like for example uniform or Gaussian. If the random number that is generated is less than PM, then at a selected location in the genotype, we flip the bit. That is, if it is a 0, we make it a 1, or if it is a 1, then we make it a 0. If the random number is greater than or equal to PM, then we leave the bit unchanged. And how about mutation in real valued representation? The approach that is adopted for real valued genotypes is very similar to binary genotypes, with the difference that there is no concept of flipping the bit. There are no bits. This is not binary. Rather, we introduce a small change. This is done by adding or subtracting of a small value that is derived from the Gaussian probability distribution. This has a mean of 0. So this perturbation or a small change is performed with the probability PM. I hope that the content covered in this video was clear. Let us now continue this discussion in the live Google Meet. See you there. Thank you.